Hi guys, and welcome to Dee's Media World. Today I'm doing a different kind of video for my channel, one I've been planning for since the beginning of this year at least. And if you read the description below, it is the 25 things I've learned since becoming 25 or turning 25. My 25th birthday is this month, July 18th. Woo! And I'm excited, but I also wanted to share with you guys a lot of things that I've sort of learned over the past couple of years specifically that I thought would be important to share through this sort of new chapter in my life, I suppose. So let's just get started. The first section, I have it kind of divided into sections, is lifestyle. This is just sort of general things I've sort of learned. The first thing I learned is when it comes to religion, and particularly in relationships, like romantic relationships, you kind of have to be on the same paragraph that's on the same page. There's kind of this discussion like, you and your partner have to be sort of equally yoked. And it kind of seems kind of vague. Like, of course, you and your partner have to celebrate the same religion. But while there are people who are in a relationship where their partner is a different religion than they are, it actually can get it's really important to even go beyond just being in the same religion. It actually means being on the same page on how you worship, how much you actually participate in your religion or your religious practices. Like, are you someone who goes to church every Sunday, but you're with someone who only goes once a year? Or are you someone who believes in only certain aspects of your religion, but your partner believes in all aspects? And how literally they take, I guess, religious practices or things that are involved in your religion that you might not take as seriously, or you might take it seriously and they don't. Like, those things actually matter. It's not just enough to say, oh, he's Buddhist, I'm Buddhist, and then that's it, and you can function easily after that. Like, it has to go beyond that. It has to be like a couple steps ahead of that to actually have like a functioning relationship when it comes to religion, because that's actually one of some reasons people actually end up breaking up. The second thing I have on my list is totally different from religion, is about Facebook. When Facebook came out in like 2006, roughly at that time, people used it a lot, and they still use it a lot now as a way to sort of brag about their lives. The whole point of statuses were either two things: to either brag about what's going on in your life, saying how awesome you are, you got this job, you got this opportunity, you're going to this school, you're doing this. You say those things to get attention in a positive way, or the opposite, where you say something very vague, like, I had a really bad day today, or this is the worst day of my life, in a way to get sort of pity, to get attention for the sake of getting attention. But my point I wanted to make is that Facebook never tells a person's whole story. When you see people make posts about how great their lives are, that they're doing this, they're going here, they're studying there, they're doing these things that maybe you wanted to do, and you might feel like this tinge of jealousy. Remember that they're not really sharing their whole story. They're just telling you sort of the results. You don't really know how hard it was, for them to even get to this point, or how long they've been working on to getting to this point. You don't know if they are still struggling with this decision they made, and it's not as great as they thought it would be. Like, maybe they're really excited about going to that college overseas or across the country or whatever. They got into this prestigious school, but they're not going to tell you how difficult it is to maintain maybe the scholarship that they got, or how the school wasn't what they thought it was going to be, or how it's not all how you thought, or maybe it was great and it was better than they expected, but they miss home or something along those lines. Like, Facebook isn't going to give you that entire story. It's not going to, only your real friends are going to know that stuff about you. And you would only know that kind of stuff about your real friends. Like, so when you see like someone you went to college with, or someone you went to high school with, and it feels like they're bragging about their accomplishments, just remember that you don't really know them that well. And in the big scheme of life, you have things within yourself that they probably are jealous of, or they might think, oh, what that person is doing is awesome, I wish I could do that too. And basically, jealousy in a nutshell is a kind of, especially with Facebook and social media, where people tend to brag and talk about themselves a lot, Instagram as well. Jealousy is kind of a wasted emotion because you don't really know anything beyond that status or that picture that they posted. So the third thing I have is about yourself in terms of lifestyle changes is your biggest enemy is often yourself. And I realized this definitely with myself this past year and just the past couple years. And I finally had, taken that and did something about it. I made some major lifestyle changes this year. I've gone to places I normally wouldn't have gone to. I've worked hard on things that I've been dreaming of doing and actually making those come true, and really just achieving goals that I realized that it was just me who was holding myself back. I mean, sure, you have outside influences, people saying maybe you shouldn't do that, maybe you shouldn't do that, and sort of having that in your ear and thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't do that, or maybe that's someone else's dream that they're meant to come true and I can't do that, or whatever insecurities you have. But what it really boils down to is you holding yourself back. It's such an important thing to realize that you can be your own worst enemy, that you're not a comic book hero or a superhero where your biggest villain is across the street in a big lair who's looking down at you wanting to beat you up. Oftentimes that person, that villain, is yourself in you, and you're the one who's actually stopping yourself from doing things. Going back to what I said about number 2 about Facebook, feeling jealous about other people's accomplishments or whatever is a waste of time, because those people who have accomplished those things, those accolades, whatever, they somehow figured out what you need to figure out, which is not holding yourself back. Those people who are doing things that you want to do, they learned that they were holding themselves back, or maybe they never hold themselves back, whatever the case may be, and that you need to get on that level with yourself. Once you realize you are holding you back, and that whatever you want to do can be achieved through hard work, through belief, through whatever. If you have a system of family or friends who feel like they're holding you back from your dreams, then maybe you need to push them to the side a little bit. Whatever it takes for you to sort of get a hold on your life. It's your life. It's going to make a world of difference for you. Believe me. So the fourth thing I wanted to share is procrastination can truly derail your entire life. That's kind of similar to your own worst enemy. Procrastinating definitely kind of can be as small as, your homework. Like, oh, I had this essay due tomorrow or next week and I don't want to do it. But I'm really referring to when it comes to your entire life plan. If your dream, let's say you go to nursing school and your dream is to be a nurse or to work with babies and preemies and preemie care, and you go to school for that, and for a good 5-6 months, you're searching for a job after you graduate and you find nothing. So you find a job at a local grocery store, something that's not in your field at all, to help you pay the bills, which is admirable. That's fine. But during that process, you might start to get discouraged from even finding work in your field because the job you just got pays you pretty well. You're pretty comfortable. You don't love it, but you'll settle for it. It's easy. And what I'm referring to is that procrastination on actually getting what you want. Like, the thing is, what makes it hard to get what you want in life, especially when it comes to careers, is that there's going to be roadblocks. There's going to be other detours you might have to take to get to where you want. But don't forget what you originally wanted to do. Like, you don't have to graduate from, say, nursing school in this example and go straight to a nursing job. Like, that's actually somewhat unrealistic. But don't forget that dream that you have while you're still at your current job. Remember to continue working for that. While you're working at that grocery store as a manager or whatever you're doing, look into finding work somehow in your field. Don't get lazy. Don't procrastinate. Don't put it off. Don't forget about that, because you went to school for that. And if that's your passion, your dream, you need to make it happen. So the next thing I have is kind of random as well. Number 5 is avoid showing your emotions on your face. This is one I still struggle with. And this can be benefit you or it can harm you, but it mostly harms you. It's really difficult sometimes for someone like me who I feel like I'm more expressive than I realize, is hiding your emotions, having that deadpan expression. And I've been working on it. It's still difficult. I can't even say I've beaten it, but it'll help you in the long run to sort of avoid when someone says something to you and you just want to, especially like your boss or something like that, and you just want to look at them like they're crazy or whatever. Avoid it as much as you can. Number 6, sometimes it's okay to learn the hard way. It may be the only way to learn. This is one that definitely was personal for me this year when it comes to some of the career choices I made, because growing up, your parents will tell you, you don't have to learn the hard way. I don't want you to learn the hard way. Or if you did something you weren't supposed to do, and you're like, let's say you weren't supposed to ride your bicycle down the street, and one day you decided to, and you scraped your knee really badly or something, and your parents are like, you just had to learn the hard way, didn't you? And that was a phrase I heard a lot growing up, and even now as an adult I hear it sometimes. But I realized learning the hard way sometimes it's the only way to learn. Like, yeah, it can be avoided. Like, you want your parents' guidance, you want your family's guidance, you want someone there to protect you in certain situations, to avoid making the same mistakes over and over again, whatever, sure. But a big part of growing up is learning the hard way, is figuring things out on your own, is trying new things. This especially is true, I think, when people tell you not to do something that they haven't done. Like, for example, moving abroad. If someone's like, oh, you just want to learn the hard way about what it's like to live, overseas in, say, Guatemala, whatever, you just want to learn the hard way. Well, there is no other way to learn in a situation like that. Like, I'm not going to learn what it's like to live in Guatemala if I've never lived in Guatemala. I'm not going to know what it's like to have a career, I don't know, as a hairdresser if I don't try and be a hairdresser. Like, there are certain things that it's like you can only learn so much from observation, from reading, from hearing about it. You actually have to do stuff yourself to truly learn it. I mean, most people will say that you can learn through multiple ways, like colors, you can learn through memorization. But most people really remember stuff through action. Like, oh, I remember what it was like to work as a hairdresser because I did that. And I hated it for whatever reason in this example. But basically, learning the hard way has such a negative connotation with like being, defiant. But in most cases, as an adult, you kind of need to learn the hard way to even learn the situation at all. So number 7, this is kind of like the golden rule in reverse. If you remember the golden rule, it's basically like do unto others as you would do unto them, or whatever. Like, you do what you do to someone, you would want them to do to you back. Reciprocation. What I do for you, or what you do for me, I would do for you, kind of thing. What I'm really referring to is kind of basically the same premise, but in the negative way, which is remembering how other people have treated you badly and not treat others the same way. If you had a bad teacher growing up who put you down, who made you feel bad about yourself, remember that feeling. Remember, not in a negative way, don't like hoard it in your system, but remember those moments so that when you become a teacher or when you get older, you remember what that was like and not do it to other people. It's basically like the same thing. Don't do it unto others, but what you wouldn't want to do to you, basically. And it'll actually affect your psyche a lot more. It's a healthier way of thinking when you sort of remember a little bit of how people have treated you badly. This can really go with customer service too. If you work in a customer service field, and it's those days where it's difficult for you to stand up there at the cash register and, talk to customers or whatever you got to do. Just remember how you would want to be treated, or how you've been treated badly, and not do it to someone else. So that's it. For number 8 is, this one has a little bit to do with learning the hard way, but it's not telling everyone your plans until you've settled on them. In a sense, what I mean, especially as an adult, I'm not talking about like random stuff. I noticed the most when I became older that things went more smoothly for me when it came to life decisions. When I sat, reflected on them, thought about them, and just moved forward with them without asking for a bunch of input, without putting it out there for people to sort of tear it down. A great example of this is that I had a friend who she had thought about joining, I think, the Marines a couple years ago. And she was just thinking about it at the time. And at that point, while she was thinking about it, she told her family about it. And they had all these negative things to say. They're like, oh, I've heard this, I've heard that. You shouldn't do it for this reason. You shouldn't do it for that reason. And that put a lot of self-doubt into her. And she ended up not doing it because of the fear they sort of bestowed on her. But if she had waited until she actually had made a decision about it, and she had gotten some insight from people who actually had been in the Marines, or just not listening to a lot of naysayers and just sort of doing her own research and kind of just being within herself and figuring out on her own, she probably would have ended up doing it. And who knows what would have happened. Like, what I'm really saying is the plans that you make aren't always made for everyone to critique. It's your business, it's your life. If it directly affects like your family, then you want to tell them. But there's so much easier to sort of tell your family, like, hey, I'm moving overseas, and I'm telling you now because I made the decision, and you're trying to talk me out of it. You're trying to hold me back. Like I mentioned, being held back isn't going to work, because at this point, I've gotten my headspace together. I understand what I'm doing. This is what I want to do. And you can give me those negative thoughts if you want to, but I'm confident in myself. And that sort of leads back to a whole over theme of growing up, is having the confidence in your own decisions and not having to rely and depend on everyone else's opinions and feelings and thoughts and concerns. Take those with a grain of salt. Like, yeah, I understand why you're concerned about this, but have a but. There's a kind of a fair line between defiance and what I'm talking about, which is having control of your life. But if you're an adult, it's not really defiance then. It's you making those decisions that you feel are right for you. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But you're not going to sit and moan and cry and wonder what would have happened if I took that job overseas, if I did whatever you wanted to do. That's the whole point. Number 9. This is similar to number 8 a little bit, is sometimes it's better to ask for someone's blessing / forgiveness over asking for their permission. So this more so has to do with your family. This is a phrase that I heard all the way back when I was in high school, which was sometimes it was better to basically ask your parents to forgive what you've done than to ask for permission. Now, this isn't about like doing something you're not supposed to do. It's more along the lines of not giving your family the opportunity to hold you back. And that's sort of what I just mentioned about being held back by sort of your family's opinions and thoughts and whatnot. Asking for your family's blessing is nice. It's kind of like the concept of a man asking for his asking the father for his girlfriend's hand in marriage. Like, the idea of it really is not, when a man does that, he's not doing it to ask the dad, hey, can I marry your daughter? Will you allow me to marry your daughter? He's actually saying, I want to marry your daughter, and it would be nice if you would approve of me marrying your daughter or asking her to marry me. But if you say no, that's okay. I'm still going to do it anyway, but I wanted to run it through you first. That's sort of the difference. Sometimes you don't have to, you do that. Not the first part where you're truly asking for someone's permission. You sort of do the second one where you're like, I'm going to do what I got to do anyway, but it would be nice if you would approve of what I did. But if you don't, that's okay, because I'm still going to do it anyway. Not out of defiance, but because this is my life. I need to do this, whatever. That's really what I think the fine line that some people miss too when it comes to blessings in that situation with marriage is like, I don't think it's supposed to work where you're directly asking the dad for the hand in marriage. Literally, he's asking more like, will you be cool with it? But I still am going to do it anyway. That's how I always interpret it. And it makes sense to me. The next one, number 10, is And this is the last one for the lifestyle section of my notes. Stop asking yourself why all the time and ask yourself why not. This has probably been the motto for me for 2016. I've made a lot of big decisions this year, and I'll go into those and probably in another video. And it kind of boils down to, instead of asking myself why, I ask myself why not. Like, why? Asking yourself why can always have an answer. You can always talk yourself out of doing something. I'll give you a great example. Just this past 2 weeks ago or week ago, I went to New Orleans for the first time with one of my friends, and it was awesome. I loved it. And originally, I wasn't sure if I was going to go because I was waiting on the Essence Festival to let me know if I was going to be able to work with them or not, whatever. And normally that would hold me back, and I would be like, well, I'll just wait until they definitely let me know. And normally I feel like I have to have a direct reason to go somewhere and do something. I realized it doesn't matter in the long story of life if the Essence Festival lets me know I got the job or not, because it would still be great to go to New Orleans. That would be enough. And the D of last year would have completely, and did actually completely, depended on, that job to even go. It was like, well, why would I go if I didn't get this job? I did get the job, which was great, but I still, last year, the way that I was last year, I would say, well, why would I go if I didn't get this job? This year I said, I'm still going. Why not? Why wouldn't I go even if I didn't get the job? And I still had a great time. I was still able to work at the festival. It was still great. But if I had waited to say, oh, I got the job, then I could go, it just would have had a different meaning on the trip. I liked that feeling of saying, why not? Why shouldn't I go anyway? People go to New Orleans for vacation without having to do something specific. People go anywhere just to do. Why do you always have to have a reason to do something? You don't always have to have a reason. So that was actually the first part. I'm going to now go into the second and third parts. So I will see you guys, or I think it's 4 parts, but I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.